It is very well known we can train our body with exercises in order to get stronger, faster, or even more endurant. In example, we can train our biceps with weight training exercises like a bicep curl. Now, if we can train the body, can we train the brain as well? More specifically, can I train my brain with, let's say, sudoku? Just to motivate this topic a bit. Games like Dr. Kawashima's brain training for the Nintendo and similar applications are widespread on all different devices and quite popular to the point that there is a huge industry behind them aiming at selling you their products. When advertising these games, the company claim all different sorts of supposedly benefits for your brain. This ranges from improving cognitive capacities like memory or attention to medical benefits like the prevention of Alzheimer's disease. Some of these apps claim to make use of the latest research. So, the central question here is this all worth your time and your money, or is it all just a hoax? But let's get back to our Sudoku for a bit. You probably know that Sudokus come in all different difficulty levels, ranging from beginner over intermediate to even expert levels. What this tells us is that there are some people better at solving Sudokus than others. And what we can just assume at this point is that they didn't get born with the ability to solve complex Sudokus, but that most of them started with the beginner ones too and progressed to the more difficult ones over time. Long story short, we can observe that one gets better at solving Sudokus when solving Sudokus. That's not so surprising, is it? But now keep in mind that a change in our behavior, especially if it's such a lasting one as progressing to a higher difficulty level, doesn't come without a change in our brain. This means that one that solves a lot of Sudokus changes the brain in order to get better at it. But isn't that already the answer to the question we posed at the beginning? Apparently, we can train our brain with Sudoku. So here we have our answer and are done for today. Great! But wait, there is a catch. You already expected that, didn't you? Well, obviously, there's a little but in the story. More like quite a big but. One that some companies would much rather shove under a rug and pretend it doesn't exist. But before we come to that, let's get back to our analogy and consider our weight training again. Suppose you trained only bicep curls for a while now, and your arms got nice and big and all, and you can stem a lot more weight now than you could in the beginning. Now, you decide to change your exercise to something different. Let's say a chin up, maybe. Something that still involves your biceps, but also a lot of other muscles on top of that. Now, you will most likely notice that the progress you made on the bicep curls does not exactly translate to the new exercise. You might have some benefits as you can still use your biceps, but the gains you made will be much smaller. And now, consider a leg exercise, like a squat. Most likely, you won't see any benefit here from your bicep training. Which shouldn't surprise you, as it is a completely different part of your body. And the key word here is specificity. Only those areas or capacities that you train will improve, and it might not translate to a different area. The same just applies to your brain. You might get better at solving Sudokus, but you will probably not get significantly better at more general tasks like short-term memory or mental arithmetic. But don't just take my word for it. Let's have a quick look at the results of some meta-studies on the topic. Let's see what the science says. And I found two large meta-studies who examined a large array of studies on brain games and the benefits. Don't worry, I cited all the sources at the slide at the end, and if you're interested in taking a closer look yourself, go for it. It's really interesting, and especially the first one is very thorough. The first, by Simons et al., found basically exactly what we were already expecting. There was a large evidence that the subjects got better at the specific tasks they were doing, but only a medium evidence that a transfer to a closely related task is happening, and basically no support for a transfer to a distantly related task. Additionally, they also identified that there seems to be no transfer to everyday performance. which is the most relevant transfer for us, as most of us do not have a specific test battery to check if our playing Sudoku had any benefits for us. Rather, we would have to see the difference in our daily lives, if there are any. And as our daily lives consist of a complex mix out of huge variety of different cognitive capacities, it does not really surprise that we probably don't see any benefits there. Simmons et al. Also pointed out that most claims about the effectiveness of brain games are oversimplifying this very complex topic, especially the problem of the transfer to everyday performance is often just ignored by the companies, and thus the claims are not really justified by science. And even if studies were cited, they usually had some major shortcomings in the test design. The second meta-study I found comes to a very similar conclusion. Van Houten et al. State that the effects lacked a generalization to a more broader cognitive functioning, just like we saw with Simmons et al., that you have a specific effect in this task, but not in related or distant tasks. Additionally, and most importantly, Van Houten could not prove any long-term effects, meaning that even if there were short-term effects, they did not stick around over a matter of days or weeks, so there was no continuous progression resulting from the training. They see the current research more as a proof of principle at best, meaning that further studies might be promising, that we can't fully declare brain training as a failure, but that the high praise you find by those companies advertising these games is not justified by any scientific means. Both meta-studies make clear that there are a lot of problems with the current research. This includes methodological difficulties like a missing control group or unreported findings, which just undermines how much weight we can assign to positive results about brain training. Another problem are unclear statements about the goals of the training. What I mean by that is that some studies aim at improving cognitive functioning in healthy adults, while others focus more on restoring functions in neurological patients, and some focus more on preventing certain diseases like dementia in the long run. When discussing these studies, these very different goals often just get mixed around and differences get ignored. It can very well be that there are more benefits for a patient than there is for a healthy adult. When researching, I also found a handful of studies that took a look on brain training as a means of preventing cognitive impairment. Again, the specific citings are to be found at the end. These studies reflect the notions of the meta-study very well. There might be some small effects, but the current evidence is not yet enough to really support any claims. But what we do have now is enough positive evidence that further, more thorough, and most importantly, well-designed studies seem to be justified and necessary, which is, after all, the most scientific conclusion I could think of. So, all in all, as a conclusion, what can I say about training your brain with Sudoku? And are brain training games really a hoax or not? Well, you technically can train your brain when playing these games or when solving a Sudoku, but you basically train your brain with every action you do, so don't expect too much from this notion. If you enjoy doing Sudokus, or if you enjoy playing brain games because they stimulate your brain and make you feel good, then it is not a hoax. Go for it and have fun. Just know to take any claims that these will make you smarter with a grain of salt. So anyways, thanks for listening or for watching, whatever. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on InstaIP. I can try to answer them as best as I can. And enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.